recently I did a video called Top 8 Tips for Wildlife Photographers, and it was kind of a video with some tips, tricks, hints, suggestions about wildlife photography in general. Maybe some things you can use, or some other techniques to improve your keeper rate. But today I want to share with you 8 tips at least on how you can actually find wildlife to either film or photograph. Stay tuned, that's coming up next. Seem to be walking a lot when I do these videos, but I'm actually out checking for trail cam locations, and so between spots I often do these little videos. Anyway, in case you're wondering why I'm walking so much, or usually when I'm doing these, why I'm walking. The next one is networking. And you're going to say, well, hey, I know what networking is. And yeah, you probably do, but do you do it? And I only say this because I'm not particularly, I don't know, I guess I could say good at it. Or maybe I just need to remind myself to do it. But you know what? It's many times it's actually paid off big time. So networking, of course, can be many different things, but social media is one place where I've made a lot of new contacts, a lot of new friends, and sometimes, it's not often, but sometimes I'll ask somebody where they got some particular material. And the reason why I say I don't do it often is because I just don't really want to impose. If somebody else has something good, well, yeah, okay, I might get a little bit jealous, but yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of weird that way also. But anyway, networking is a really, really good thing to do. And I've gotten a number of great locations from doing just that. In fact, I just recently got some information about a fairly good spot that I'm going to go check out, I think probably in a week or two. And that was through somebody I met on a social media platform. So that actually pays off. So anyway, it's really long-winded, but I think you get the idea. Utilize these things to your advantage. So I'm not going to say the name of them because, well, you know all of them anyway. But really take advantage of it, and then ask people, like, hey, is this a place that you can share? Don't get upset if somebody says no. And this is something, in fact, when I ask somebody, it's one of the first things I'll say is you're absolutely free to say no with no ill feelings or whatever you want to call it. So you just got to be ready for that. But really, really try to maximize where you can your networking opportunities, because that can pay off big time. And in a similar vein to that, tell your friends what you do. Tell your family, well, your family probably knows, but tell your family what you do. Tell your neighbors what you do. Tell people what you do, and then say, something along the lines of, I'm a wildlife filmmaker, I'm a wildlife photographer, and I'm always looking for things to film or photograph. You can give examples, maybe, I don't know, maybe you want to film spiders on a spider web with dew on it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a backyard bird of some sort. Maybe, somebody walks their dog in the forest and maybe they come across owls. But the whole idea is to tell people what you do. And, uphill. And also let them know that you would appreciate a heads up if they see something interesting. This is something I've done, and it has also paid off in spades. So tell people what you do. Tell people what you're looking for. Yeah. So another thing you can do is keep a book or a diary of things you photographed, but more importantly, when you photographed them. So let's say that last year you're photographing or filming osprey because they're returning from the south, and you're sitting on the couch in next April and you're like, I don't know what I should be doing. You then have something you can refer to. And the idea is that it's kind of a weird tip, but the idea is that you fill up this calendar, if you will, with things that you've done. And that gives you a really good sort of memory or, you know, a reminder of what you may have done the year previously. But it's something that I find really, really useful because I don't always remember what I did the previous year, or rather when I did it. So this little tip gives you a way to recall that. So another thing I'm doing today is I'm putting the Canon 200 to 800 to the test with a Canon R5C. I managed to borrow, this isn't mine, I managed to borrow it from a friend of mine, and so I have this for the next little while. I might do a video about it too, who knows. Anyway, not what this video is about. So the next tip for you is to use apps to your advantage. So you can get different apps like eBird, or I think the other one is called, there's another one called iNaturalist or something along those lines. And that's a good place for you to check out as well. It'll give you an indication of what might be around in a particular area. Sometimes the data isn't recent, but you know, at least it will give you a reason to go somewhere. So if you're checking a spot and you see that there's been, you know, 4 or 5 great gray owl sightings, that's probably something you want to check out, even if they aren't recent. So use these apps to your advantage. This next one is, I think this is probably, well, maybe it's my favorite. It's certainly one of my favorite, and that is pay attention to nature. I think I can probably best illustrate it with hopefully a quick story. Some years ago, I was down in Yellowstone, and I really like to film the wolves in Yellowstone. And it can be, as you may know, hit or miss. But this tip is really centered around looking for something that signals what you are looking for. That's another weird one. But anyway, the story goes like this. So I was driving down just past Tower Junction in Yellowstone, if you know Yellowstone. And I noticed in a tree that there were, I think there's like 3 or 4 ravens and 2 bald eagles in the same tree. Now, they don't usually hang out and party together, so I knew something was up. So I parked kind of close by, and then I went to investigate. And it took a little while, but sure enough, there was an elk kill. And so I thought, okay, there's still remains left on the elk. There are still things left on the elk. So I figured something would come to it. So for the next 2 or 3 days, I was, you know, obviously not too close, but close enough where I could kind of see it. And then on the 3rd day, at the end of the day, I had a pretty incredible encounter with one of the wolves from Yellowstone. I was the only one there, and for some reason, the wolf was well aware that I was there at a bit of a distance, but it didn't care at all. And the only reason why I ended up getting the photos, unfortunately, I didn't take any video, but I did get these photos here that I'm going to put up now. And the only reason why I ended up getting that is because I noticed something that was a bit out of sorts, or I guess you can call it not normal, not something that you would see every day. So my tip, for this particular tip, the idea is that you keep an eye out for something that indicates something else might be there. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that one of the things I'm doing today is I'm looking for trail cam locations. And that's another thing you can do to potentially find wildlife, is put out some trail cams. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be able to film or photograph, obviously, what you get on your trail camera. Often I get things coming through. Sorry, I just see some bear. See that right there? That's bear bits, bear scat. So I'm just going to go the other way. It doesn't look super fresh, but yeah, I left my bear spray in the truck, so I'm just going to go the other way. Anyhow, so I'll shorten this one really quickly, but trail cams, you can try them. They may give you an indication of what's around, but a lot of times you may also get things coming through at night, but it's kind of like an extra little tool you can put in your toolbox. Now, if you watch that other video I did, the 8 tips for wildlife photographers, then you'll recognize this next tip, but I'm going to include it because I think it's a really important one, and that is to use your ears when you're in the field. And the previous tip was about using your eyes to observe what goes on, but this tip is listen for what is happening around you. And it's something that, like these other things, has also paid off in spades for me. To give you an example, one time I was out looking for pygmy owls, and pygmy owls are, I don't know, they're the size of a grapefruit. They're very, very small, and they can be incredibly hard to spot. Anyhow, so I went to a spot, an area where I thought they would be, and I just sat there for a while. And it did take a bit, but eventually I heard one of them, and they make like this distinct beeping sound. So that's, I guess I can tie in another thing here, and that is to know your subject, right? So in this case, I knew what the pygmy owl sounded like. So when I heard it, I recognized it right away. Recently, I was out with another friend of mine, and we were looking for pika. And pika, you know, they run in and out of these big rocks, these big boulders, and they make this little, I don't know, like a squeaky sound almost. And so we watched for them, and you know, I don't think we saw them first. I think we actually heard them first. But if we didn't know what to listen for, we could very well have missed them. So this tip is, you know what you're listening for, and make sure you sometimes just sit there, observe, and listen. So since I saw bear scat just 30 meters down that way, here's another tip for you. This one is also a little bit strange, but know which animal leaves what behind. So in that case, I knew right away that it was bear. It's a little harder to tell if it's grizzly bear or black bear. They're both where I am currently. They're both of them live here, but probability-wise, it's probably a black bear. There are more black bears than there are grizzly bears. But anyway, so know what scat of different species look like, and also know what tracks look like. So out here, you know, I look for things like bobcat. I look for things like wolves too. The big difference between them is on the wolves, with the wolves you can actually see nail marks, whereas with the cats you can't. You just see the foot pads. So know the difference between the animals that you may find, and that's another indication of what could be in the forest around you. Well, that takes us to the end of the video, but hey, if you happen to have a tip that I didn't mention, it would be sure great. It would be great if you put it down in the comments here down below. If you already subscribed to my channel, know that I really appreciate it. And if you don't subscribe to my channel, it would be great if you would consider doing that. And before you click the close button or the next button or wherever you're going to go, please give the video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. See you next time.